Hey guys, I thought what I'd do today is just live stream a bit of playing with the tunnel tool, show you guys what it's like to use. So yeah, just going to try and build something fairly simple, but show off how the different segments go together, how to adjust some more of the parameters, go a bit more in depth perhaps. So first time you drag the tool in, it's got to load up Houdini Engine, and it will take a little bit of time to get going. Great, so here we are. So I think what I'll do, I'll try and make something a bit like the switchback section that I made for Cave 6. So we're going to be using, we'll start off by doing everything in the layout mode, and then we'll switch to production mode and finalize it a bit after that. So, okay, so the first section, we're going to have a spline that comes like this, and then let's go to this side. It's going to come down to say here. We're going to turn on the junction so we have our Boolean, and we're going to move all this. So I can just drag these to about here. It doesn't really matter which way around the spline is. When you come to the ramp, obviously if you've moved it around, the ramp won't change. So, bit of trial and error there. Okay, so this guy is going to come back this way a little bit, like that. So this is our first section. Let's sort out some of the height a bit. Drag this one off here. Okay. And this comes down. Great. So there's our first section. So we want to switch this over to a different profile. And I'm going to go for the sharp profile to match what I did previously. So we can see we come on in and we get to there. And I'm going to increase the overall scale of it just to make it a bit bigger. Okay, great. And having done that, I can now move these ones down. Just checking, if I don't go too far, the Boolean will break. So there's a sweet spot. Of course, there's a delivery. So hang on, I'll stop and resume this. Okay, so yeah, so when you're playing with a Boolean, just bear in mind that you need to leave a bit of a gap, and that's why that section's smaller, because it has to fit within inside the main section. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to collapse this end down. So I'm going to come down to my ramps, and I need to work out which end that is. So if I drag this down, got it right the first time, that's lucky. Okay, so that's all the way down, and we're going to add in a point here. Now this is the bug I mentioned in the documentation. So if you add a spline point in, or section ramp point in along here, it will always default to 0, 0. So just grab it, move it back. Okay, we don't need to really close all the way down, just to give the impression. And then maybe what we'll do, we'll just start a bit smaller, and we'll add another point in here so we can go up, down a bit. Okay. And then what I'll do, obviously there comes a point where the player can't actually walk any further because it's too small. So perhaps here, this last point, I'll just drag it around and off. So the impression it goes further, but you can't get that far. Then we can put some scattered rocks in there later or something like that. So having changed the profile, you can see here now we have a slight issue. The Boolean doesn't seem to be very happy, so let's just keep playing around. There we go. So you can see this section ramp here just equates to the whole of the length of this. Okay, let's add the next piece in. So if you don't select a point, you're going to move the entire thing around, which is what we want. So here, I'm going to do, okay, that'll be fine to start. Move these down. And in fact, I'm not going to go all the way because I'm going to change that in a second. So, right, let's enable the junction piece. So this one's a bit of a, bit of a pig trying to line it up sometimes, but what we want to do, we want to have these overlapping, and then we're going to flare out the ends so that there's a seamless merge. So just a bit of trial and error to get that to look good. Let's switch this over again to our sharp profile. Put the scale up a little bit. Okay, so drag the whole thing down a bit. Okay, so that's looking pretty reasonable. And that's definitely close enough there for that to work. Okay. Let's increase the noise a bit as we go in as well, make it a bit more jagged. This will look completely different when it goes into the production mode as well. So here, let's see, one more going up. And again, let's start changing this. So let's add in a point around there. And then start collapsing that end. Okay. I won't make this identical to the other cable. Let's just put it around here so we can do some kind of transition. Okay. Right, so covering the overlap. So what we need to do here, as you walk through, we're going to see a seam in one direction or the other. I think because I'm in a separate level, I can actually just walk around if I hit play. Possibly. Just having a think. Okay, I can. Okay. So as I walk in here, so that's quite good, but you're seeing here this is looking pretty jagged. We want this to blend in a bit nicer. So the way we do that, we're just going to flare the end of each of these. So if we come down to our next ramp, I need to check which side it is. So it's this side. All we're going to do is put in another point just around here, just there. If you right click and mouse scroll, we can zoom in, and then I'm just going to increase the size of the very end of it, just like that. That's a bit sharp, so I'll just pull this one back. Okay, there we have it. And if we do the same thing here, I'll move it a little bit more this way and find the spline. Just check which side's which. Okay, so it's the other end on this one. Add key. Okay, then drag that one up. That one back. Okay, so now, as I move through, this becomes more apparent later when we're in the production, but what we're not getting now is quite such a harsh transition between the two sections. So that's kind of what you want to aim for, is to have them overlap so that you never have a hard edge visible. Same thing if you're going from one tunnel type into another. So if we then go into, swing the whole thing around. If we go into a circular one like this, it's just the same thing. We just want to make sure we flare everything out sufficiently. So here, let's just check it. There's the other end. Add a key. It's going to jump back to the wrong place, so move it up again and drag that one up. Now, obviously, when you're going from from one shape to another, you may have to exaggerate that even more. or just put in some other geometry to cover up some of these gaps. We'll see how far we can go with this and see if we can get it looking acceptable. And then on this section, so this will be on our main section, it'll be this end of it. Add a key, say about there. I'm going to crank this one up all the way. So again, it is trial and error, and sometimes you'll find you have to put in some more geometry somewhere else to get it to look right. So here, what I might do is put in a boulder along this wall. That's kind of working okay. Maybe something up here as well. So, but pretty happy with that. And then here, let's just make this a bit longer, and this will turn into a larger cavern. So the tool's not really designed to make rooms, but we can approximate a room by putting in some points. So, you know, it's situational. Let's scroll down here. Okay. So put a point in here. And another one here. And then what we're going to do, move these. It's a bit fiddly, but we can start to make. I think I can shift select them. Yeah. So here we get a much bigger cave area. So again, it's not intended to make big rooms, but it will give you a starting point. So, okay, at this point I'm happy with this. I haven't really touched on the slope functionality, but just to remind people, if you go too far and the floor turns grey, that means you can't walk up it. So just make sure your floors are orange if you're intending for the player to walk on them. Right, that's all done. So the next thing to do is to start turning them into the production versions. Click production. Oh, okay. So I don't know, that's actually not supposed to be there. I've changed it. Rather than having a tick box, it's now mode, layout, and production. So ignore the tick box, that'll be gone when the tool goes live. Right, so we have our first one here. Production. And production. Okay. So let's go for a little walkthrough. Can't play that when performing set new time operation. I have absolutely no idea what that means or why it would be trying to perform a set new time operation. Okay. Okay. Not sure why that's happening. Anyway, we don't need to walk in it. We get the idea. So this is all looking good. Let's start increasing the noise a bit more. Get some more breakup. So the more noise, the less the shape will be repeating, and the more interesting it will look, hopefully. Okay, so that's looking quite nice. This, we already added the noise in here. And as we come around, this is looking pretty cylindrical, so let's crank the noise up here as well. Okay, you can see here the floors now looking a bit too much, so let's click on smooth floor, and that will just smooth out the floor, not completely, but it will help. Now we can probably go a bit higher with the noise there. Okay, so the floor's still looking a little bit bumpy, but if I take smooth floor off, you'll see it really gets a lot worse. That's still walkable. So starting to come together, let's add in some props. Let's also resample a bit more. So let's just drop that down. So you can see again even more detail when we start resampling it. Just want to make sure that it doesn't get too cramped so you can't navigate through. You may find there are some issues with the Boolean from time to time. So you can see here it's looking a bit sharp on that corner just there. So let's resample it, see if that helps it. Okay, that's helped, but it's still not looking great. So what we can do then is just increase our Boolean snap distance, and that should eventually start to help that corner. One thing to bear in mind, if you increase the Boolean snap distance to higher than the size of the quads, it will start to collapse the entire tunnel down into smaller quads. So it's not a thing that will break it, but just something to be aware of. Use the Boolean tool only when you need to, and use it carefully. Okay, so that's looking quite nice. Let's start scattering some rocks. That's that one. I scattered a few in, so we'll up the density. Now some of these are scattered on the walls, which is fine because when we bake them out into foliage pieces, we can then just go through with a foliage brush and erase those. Let's put some in here. Let's make them a bit bigger in here. Scatter more of them. Okay, that's fine for now. It's just a first pass. And again, once we bake these into foliage, then we can play around with them some more. And in here, let's do the same thing. So let's up the density a lot, and let's just make these a bit smaller. Okay. Right. Smooth the floor on this one as well. And here. Okay. And the last thing is scattering some ceiling props. So let's go for, okay, that's roots on that one. Maybe that's too much. I mean, you know, it's a judgment call, isn't it? How far do the roots extend underground? I would say near the start of the cave, you're going to get more. And obviously, far underground, you wouldn't expect to see any. Let's scatter some more here. So that's really quite dense. And they are, yeah, they're way too dense. So let's just drop that down. And then let's just cheat them up into the ceiling more as well. So we'll sink them in. Okay, much better. Again, occasionally the odd one will be placed somewhere weird, but it's not a problem because we'll just paint them out in the next step. So I don't mind the idea that it's a bit more crowded as you go in, you know, unexplored cave maybe. We'll start painting and thinning these out as we come towards this section. And then here, let's scatter in some stalactites. Okay. Crank this up a lot more. Yeah, this is quite high up. And again, we'll have to paint some of these out because they're gonna be in the way. But here, that's looking quite nice. And so they go from a min-max size. And we might paint some of them out in the middle of this section too. So that's our cave section. And now we need to do things in the right order for the next part. So we're happy with this. Good point to save if we do the next bit. and we want to make sure that we bake to foliage. So bakes instance static meshes to foliage actor. So all of these roots and stalactites and rocks are static meshes, and that will change them to a foliage type, so we can start to edit them with a foliage brush, which is really helpful. So bake to foliage. So you can see straight away it baked out a load of instances. If we now go to the foliage brush, you can see it's made all of those for the stalactites, for the roots, and for the rocks. Now, obviously, at the same time as this, the Houdini tool itself is currently still live. So let me come out of the foliage tool, go into select mode. So if I move the Houdini tool, it's still there, and we've only baked out those foliage instances. So you just Control Z to cancel out. That hasn't worked. I can't Control Z. God damn it. That's not helped either. I've got no Control Z edit. Can't do while set new time is in progress. Wow. I have no idea what the set new time thing is. Thanks, Unreal. Fine. You wound me. So we'll have to just do this the hard way. Anyway, it's just a demo. We're just playing around. So I'm going to move this around roughly the right place. That'll leave for the second. I'm going to hide it, and then I'm going to just go back to foliage, and I'm going to delete all 5,613 instances and show the tool again. Right. Now we just want to make sure this is lined up. I'm in the wrong mode. Okay. So needs to come this way a little bit. Hard to tell, but I'm going to say that's close enough. Okay. So let's try that again. Can't undo while set new time is in progress. Let me just pause it in Google for a second. Right, well I restarted Unreal, and hopefully that will sort me out. Let's see. Yeah, we're good. So, just to run through that again, we want to make sure that we do this in the right order. So we have our section selected. We go down all the way to the baking section, and we bake. Make this a bit bigger. See all the options. Bake to foliage, and that will make the 5,000 different instances, or however many it was. And just bear in mind that your tunnel tool is still there. So the next thing we need to do, and this is really important, is to go back up to our scattering sections and untick scatter ceiling and untick scatter rocks. This might take a second to process because I've just reloaded Unreal, so it has to restart the Houdini engine. I think we're good. So, yep. Now we've just got the right section. That's why I'm moving it around and undoing, just to check it is the right thing. And then if we go all the way back down again to the baking section, we can click Baked Actors, and that's now created these segments. And there we have it. We have baked out from our tool, and Houdini is no longer actively involved in these assets in any way, shape or form. So I just hide that now, and make sure as well invisible and hidden in game. And then if I go in here, press play, I don't have double the geometry. It should work now that I've restarted. Okay, and here we have it. So straight away, there's a problem. I got stuck on that rock. So the way I've set it up at the moment, so the routes I've made from scratch, and they don't have collision. The rocks I've found from an existing asset that I will want to swap out with something else. But because I didn't want to change the existing asset in case anyone else is using it, they still have collision. So, you know, for now it's a little bit frustrating, but it works. We can still navigate through. The lighting's pretty horrible here as well. I haven't really put any lighting into the test level. Anyway, that's all working. And now, because we've changed all of these into foliage actors, I can start to change around and move them and do stuff with them. So let's start off by getting rid of things that we don't want. So everything's active at the moment. He's not looking pretty good. He's, yep, okay, he's gone as well. Right, that's nice. I actually don't mind those guys living up there. Maybe that one. Let's change my brush size. He can go. The rest are fine. Let's move on through. So that guy looking a bit wrong. These are all fine. It's a little bit thick here, so maybe we'll just start thinning them out, just selecting some individual ones. Okay, what's happened there? Why am I selecting everything? Mode, foliage. Okay. Not sure whether they're all selected now. Deselect, select. And this might be because my Houdini tool is still visible. Not entirely sure. So anyway, you get the idea. Foliage, erase mode, get rid of that one. That rock's looking a bit weird. The other nice thing, of course, is that because these are now foliage items, we can also paint them in. So let's make the size smaller. Oh yeah, we don't want to paint roots down there, obviously. So turn those ones off, leave these guys on. Let's just make small ones for now. So minimum size 0.2, max size 5. Yeah, much better. And we can just put these in around the edges. Maybe a couple of larger ones. Let's go with some single big guy in there. Do another big guy in there. So move. Oh, okay, so that's the one where it's applied all of the ones I had selected, which wasn't what I wanted, but it doesn't matter. Okay, that's fine. I won't go through and set dress the entire cave up. It's just to give the impression. So same thing. over here, I'll skip this section and let's just go and do a bit more mucking about with this one. So come back out of my foliage mode. So just run through the process again. First thing we do when we're happy with this and we've finalized it and we don't want to do any more changes, I'm just going to double check my stalactites, make sure they look all right. You can see they're all flat, so it's worth just making sure they are sunk into the ceiling a little bit. Get to the right setting. Okay, sync the props. Yeah. Okay, let's go with that. So we're happy with this. This is all done. We come down to the bottom, baked foliage. So that's again created a load of instances for us. And then making sure we turn these off, bake to actors. Great. So I didn't turn something off because it's baked 1,000 actors. That's what you kind of want to avoid is doing exactly what I just did. I don't know that I can undo that. I can. Okay, good. So if you notice you've made 1,000 instances, don't do it. Ah, okay. My mistake. Right, going too fast. Bake to actors. This is now done. So which tool was that? This one. So we'll hide him. Come down here. Not visible, hidden in game. And this is now fully Unreal asset, not Houdini asset. And we can start to modify it. So if I go back to foliage, so first thing you might want to do here is just make sure there's a nice path going through the middle. Let's just break this up a little bit as well. So a bit more randomness to it. And at the top, so we know some of these stalactites are going to get in the way, so let's just clear those off. But also, you know, stalactites won't be distributed uniformly, so let's make sure they're not everywhere. And start to just direct that a little bit. Okay, those ones can come out as well. And then near the beginning, just want to make sure that the player can get in unimpeded. So that's probably going to do it. The nice thing, of course, with the fact that these stalactites have been painted, been turned into foliage, is that we can now paint them on the floor. So if I come over here, turn the rocks off, leave these guys on, 1, 2, and start painting them, and make sure we have align to normal turned off, then I can start painting in some stalactites coming up, some stalagmites coming up to meet the stalactites. So, which is how we remember it in school, I guess. And so straight away you can see how quick it is to start building a really interesting cave. And of course now these are set up as foliage brushes, so once you've done this, you've got it for every other section of your cave as well. And if you want to put more on the ceiling, just make sure that you change your ground slope. I'm going to forget the exact setting. Is it 180? Nope, that's putting them up there. Well, There's a way to paint them on the ceiling, I'm sure of it. I just can't for the life of me figure out what it is right now. So anyway, that's it. That's how we can create a cave system pretty quickly. Again, these, so now I've started, I don't want to stop, but we can just start getting rid of some of these, because as we come into the cave, there would be fewer roots. Oh yeah, one other thing that's pretty cool. So let's go to this section here. This is a step to do before we get to here, although to be fair, you can swap out these foliage actors as well, so you can replace props. But while we're at this stage and we're still using the Houdini engine tool, we can swap out these rocks. So if we decide on a different rock type that we'd rather use, so let's see what we can find. We want meshes only. Okay. So let's find a suitable rock. Okay, let's go with a group of rocks. Why not? This may not work very well because they are randomly orientated, so we'll try. So we want to change which rocks are scattered on the tunnel floor, and we can do that by scrolling down to this section, so Houdini Instant Inputs. So I've created 5 rocks by default within the tool, but if you don't like these, you can remove them. So we can get rid of them or not. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, it has removed something because there were 5. I'm sure of it. And now it's saying there are 7. Okay, so now I'm puzzled. Anyway, we can at the very least swap them out for different meshes. So yeah, I thought that would happen. Floating rocks, not good. But again, if you're building a different sort of cave section and these rocks don't look right because you've gone for a different material, then just make the rocks you want, drag them in here, and it will replace them. So, well, maybe not that guy. Maybe for like a landslide or something. But yeah, he's way too big. So there we have it. It's a bit of a stream of consciousness. Hopefully not too rambling, but I thought I'd just show the tool in action. And yeah, it's pretty quick to start fleshing out a cave with the tool. So enjoy. Thank you.